Ahsoka, for me, I think it's my fave as a whole, because we only have one season.
Yeah.
It's my favorite Star Wars show at the moment, because the more I think about Mando season 3, it's like it brings the other two down a little bit.
Bad taste in
And
your mouth.
Ahsoka doesn't have the anchor for me yet, but I understand the critiques of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
In some places, the story doesn't quite get there. The Sabine stuff doesn't always make sense, like the route they took with getting her to where she needed to be. They kind of did the character of Sabine a disservice in spots. Again, non-lethal lightsabers. That was kind of frustrating. But at the same time, you've got Baylan and Shin. Baylan Skoll, one of the most interesting characters.
Yeah.
You've got Anakin, you've got Ahsoka, the droid, Huyang, so good.
Yeah, Huyang's great.
Hera and Chopper, Jason Syndulla, so good. What's his name from the Canadian supermarket show? What's the guy in the X-Wing? What's his name?
Oh, Carson.
Carson Teva. He's there. So that's good. What else is great about it? Thrawn shows up.
Ezra. The reunion there's some, but to your point though, like the second half of the show, it pulls back from some of its strengths. Like the pacing gets weird, and like Baylan becomes
really weird.
After
episode 5, they can't figure it out.
No, he becomes like a side character once they get over to Peridia. And so that killed me. Like you took one of the most compelling parts of this show. Like it's hard to introduce new characters, and Baylan Skoll was a great introduction. So I hated that the lens pulled back from him.
And then Rey passes away too, and it's like, we're not going to necessarily get him as Baylan either, which stinks.
It does, 100%. He did.
I have a hard time because something, and this is how Star Wars is. Something can be your favorite without being the best, if that makes sense. So a lot of people will tell you Episode 3 is their favorite, but they may also say Episode 3 is not the best Star Wars movie because it still is plagued by like some of the prequel trilogy lines and the CGI and things like that.
Absolutely.
And they might be like, well, Empire's the best, but I like Revenge of the Sith better because I was a kid when it came out, and like the duel at the end and stuff like that. So for me, Ahsoka comes into the area where, because Mando season 3 is so bad, I think, and Ahsoka has that recency bias. It doesn't have the low yet. It's probably my favorite, but I can also say that it's not better than Mando seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah. I think
story-wise, it's not better than Andor, but I really like it. Yeah. There's Mortis. We didn't even say Mortis.
We get that connection at the end. But I think too, like your enjoyment of Ahsoka is probably heavily influenced by either your familiarity or your enjoyment of Rebels, right? I mean,
well, also
we're both big Rebels fans, and a lot of that's continuation of some of those storylines.
I like the way Dave Filoni tells stories too, his style.
Yeah. And so
also Anakin, like prequel fans, like if you're a Clone Wars fan,
that's
like,
an incredible episode.
Yeah.
Episode 5 was so good.
It ties in so much.
I think for me, like this is an A-tier season because I loved it and there's great stuff. There were things in it that I had some issues with, but I also can very much see Ahsoka being an S-tier show based on where the next season goes. Like I feel like it's right on the cusp of being really, really good if they can really finish out this storyline that they've created. So I think the show's got a ton of potential. I think it's got a lot of potential to be really, really good. So
I just live in that weird spot. Where,
I understand. I get it.
It's my favorite, but it's not the best.
Yeah, I get that. So where did you have
also A tier?
Okay, so you did. Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's an A tier, but if I'm just picking what I'm going to throw on and rewatch every time, it's Ahsoka right now for me. So
it's easy to enjoy. I mean, it's I will say it's probably the one on there that feels the most like Star Wars for sure.
So Star Warsy, yeah.
I mean, it's
that red
hard to
opening
put a finger
crawl.
on what that means, but like,
yeah, Well, and it draws from all. You get that New Republic era, which we want
Yeah,
more of. You're still very much reminded of the Empire with Thrawn. You're reminded of the prequel trilogy. You get the animated tie-ins. It really has all of Star Wars and not the sequels. So it's pretty cool.
yeah,
In that effect. But I think A is fair. I understand where people would have it at S. I hope to one day have it there. I understand where people would knock it down to B. If you
sure.
start putting it in the Boba Fett Mando season 3 territory, I
I
would
don't get
argue
that.
with you, but you can do that because you would argue
Yeah,
with me. So